In Eldoria's grand market square, a tiny hand shot out from the crowd and yanked on the hem of King Noah's crimson cloak. "They're hurting my mama," the little girl wailed, her wide eyes, storm gray and frantic, locking onto his. Noah, the Alpha King whose iron rule had crushed rebellions and tamed packs across the realms, felt a primal fury ignite in his veins. But it was the child's scent that stopped him cold. Something ancient and smoldering beneath the fear, impossible in a little girl. Nadia hunched in the damp confines of the merchant's cellar, the metallic tang of her own blood mingling with the musk of rotting crates. Chains bit into her wrists as the two brutes circled her like vultures. "Tell us how to awaken it, witch," snarled the larger one, who desperately needed a breath mint, knuckles cracking as he flexed his meaty fists. "Give it up, or we'll carve it out of your daughter next." Her mind raced through the haze of pain, memories of June's giggles in sun-dappled meadows, the warmth of a home now ashes, the secret June's father had warned her to bury before he vanished into the night, leaving her alone with a swollen belly. No, she wouldn't break. Not for them. Not when her daughter's life hung in the balance. The door above creaked open, spilling faint torchlight down the stairs, but it wasn't salvation. It was another lash of the whip across her back. Nadia bit back a scream, her body trembling, thoughts fracturing. Fleeing the northern wilds after June's father disappeared, seeking refuge in Eldoria's bustling capital, teaching her daughter to hide her fevers, her dreams of soaring wings, and a warmth that sometimes singed the edges of her toys. They believed the power was hers to command. They were wrong. It slept in June, waiting for the right trigger. Upstairs, the market thrived, vendors hawking silks and potions under the watchful eyes of the king's guards. Noah had been patrolling undercover, his cloak masking the regal tattoos that marked him as the unchallenged alpha, when June's grip halted him. "Please, sir, they're in the cellar under the spice stall. Mama's screaming," she gasped between sobs, her small frame shaking violently. Her fingers twisted in the fabric of his cloak as though it were the only thing anchoring her to the world. Noah's golden eyes narrowed, the wolf within scenting fear, blood, and something else, an elusive, smoldering note. Control was his creed, but this child's terror cracked something deep inside him, a protective instinct he hadn't felt since losing his own kin years ago. He shrugged off the cloak, muscles rippling under his dark tunic as he strode toward the stall, the crowd parting like waves before a storm. The merchant, a weaselly man with a scarred cheek, paled. "My lord, what?" Noah silenced him with a growl, low and lethal, kicking open the trapdoor to the cellar. The scent hit him first, blood, sweat, malice, and then the sight. A woman chained. To the wall, auburn hair matted with sweat and dirt, green eyes flashing defiance even as bruises bloomed across her pale skin. Their gazes locked. A deep thrum stirred in his chest, the unmistakable signature of a fated mate bond. Scandalous, impossible, for she carried no wolf scent. She was human. His claws extended involuntarily. The brutes turned, sneering. "This ain't your business, stranger." But Noah was no stranger to violence. His beast surged, claws extending as he lunged, a blur of fury and precision. The larger thug swung a crowbar. Noah caught it mid-arc, snapped it like kindling, and drove his claws into the man's throat. The second thug drew a dagger, but Noah was already there, slamming him against the wall with enough force to crack stone. The man slumped, lifeless, eyes wide in shock. Nadia watched, heart hammering, a strange hope flickering amid the pain. Noah exhaled sharply, forcing the shift back in one controlled ripple, claws retracting, eyes fading from molten gold to their usual fierce amber. Only then did he cross the cellar to her. As he shattered her chains with one swipe, his fingers brushed her wrists, lingering a fraction too long, sending shivers through her battered form. The contact was electric, a spark that traveled straight to her core. She pulled back instinctively, cradling her arms. "You're safe now," he said, voice low and rough. Before she could respond, small footsteps pounded down the stairs. June burst into the cellar, flinging herself at Nadia's legs with a broken sob. "Mama!" The embrace was desperate, June's face buried in Nadia's torn skirts, tiny hands clutching as if she'd never let go. Nadia dropped to her knees despite the pain, wrapping her arms around her daughter. "I'm here, sweet Junie. I'm here." Noah stood frozen for a heartbeat, watching the reunion. June lifted her tear-streaked face, studying him with wide, trusting eyes. She didn't flinch from his bloodied hands or the golden glow still fading from his irises. Instead, she reached out one small hand and touched the edge of his sleeve. He knelt slowly, bringing himself to her level. "You're a brave one," he murmured. "Finding help like that." June nodded, sniffling hard, wiping her nose on the back of her hand. Mama always says we gotta be brave, even when it's really scary." Nadia's throat tightened. She had said those words so many nights, rocking June through fevers that left her skin too hot, dreams that made her cry out about flying too high. Now this king, this alpha, was looking at her daughter with something soft in his gaze, something that made Nadia's chest ache in a way she hadn't allowed since the man who'd left them vanished. Noah rose, offering Nadia his hand. "You can't stay here. The others will come back. My stronghold is the safest place in Eldoria." She stared at his outstretched palm, the scars on his knuckles, the faint tremor of restraint in his fingers. The bond thrummed between them, insistent, scandalous. A human woman, one with no shifter blood anyone could scent, and the Alpha King. The court would tear them apart, but June's small hand slipped into hers, tugging gently. "He saved you, Mama, like the knights in our stories." Nadia swallowed. Stories had never saved them before. But the hunters were closing in, and she had no more places to run, so she placed her hand in his. The moment their skin met again, the bond flared brighter, a heat that pooled low in her belly and made her breath catch. Noah's jaw tightened, his beast rumbling audibly in his chest, but he only nodded once. "Come." They emerged into the market square under fading daylight, Noah's guards materializing from the crowd like shadows. He wrapped his cloak around Nadia's shoulders, hiding the worst of her bruises, then lifted June effortlessly onto his hip. The girl rested her head against his shoulder without hesitation, exhausted trust in every line of her small body. Nadia walked beside him, every step a war between gratitude and terror. She could feel the eyes on them, merchants, guards, common folk, all wondering who the bloodied woman and child were that the Alpha King himself escorted through the streets. The palace gates loomed ahead, iron and obsidian, carved with wolves in mid-leap. As they passed beneath the arch, Nadia glanced back at the city, at the life she'd tried to build in hiding. Inside the great hall, torchlight danced across marble floors. Servants bowed, eyes wide at the sight of their king carrying a child. Noah set June down with careful gentleness. For a heartbeat, the girl hesitated, then wrapped both arms around his leg, pressing her cheek to the rough fabric of his trousers. She tilted her head back, storm gray eyes huge and shining. "Thank you, Mr. King," she whispered, "for finding Mama." Before Noah could react, June ran to Nadia's side and burrowed into her skirts, but not before flashing him one last smile. A tall woman in counselor's robes swept forward, Lady Celine, Noah's steward, her sharp gaze sweeping Nadia and June in a single assessing arc. "My lord, shall I prepare guest quarters?" "The eastern wing," Noah replied, "adjoining mine, and summon the healer, immediately." Celine's brows lifted a fraction, the only sign of surprise, before she inclined her head and glided away, robes whispering across stone. Noah turned to Nadia. "You'll be safe here. No one enters without my command. She met his eyes, searching for the trap. And what do you need in return? His gaze darkened, the bond pulsing between them like a living thing. Nothing you aren't willing to give. That night, in the vast chamber with its heavy velvet drapes and roaring hearth, Nadia sat on the edge of the bed while June slept beside her, small chest rising and falling. The fever had crept back, first a faint flush across her cheeks, then a radiant heat that turned the air around her skin hazy. Nadia dipped a cloth in the basin of cool water, pressed it gently to her daughter's forehead, and murmured the old lullabies that had carried them through so many long nights alone. A soft knock at the door. Noah stood in the threshold, unarmored now, dark tunic unlaced at the throat to reveal the jagged edge of an old scar. Firelight carved the lines of his face into something softer, almost vulnerable. "May I?" Nadia nodded, wary, but did not rise. He approached the bed slowly, boots silent on the rug, as though afraid to startle June. The girl stirred, eyes fluttering open. "Mama." Hot again. "I know, love." Nadia smoothed damp curls from her daughter's brow. Noah knelt beside the bed, bringing himself eye level with the child. "Does it hurt?" June nodded, bottom lip quivering, like fire inside. He hesitated, then placed his large hand over June's smaller one. The instant their skin met, the air seemed to sigh. The unnatural heat leaching from June's palm, eased, drawn away as though his touch were a cool current pulling the flames under. Her breathing steadied, shoulders dropping. She looked up at him with sleepy wonder. "You made it cooler." Noah's expression softened in a way that made Nadia's heart stutter. "Good. Sleep now." June's fingers curled loosely around his thumb. Her eyes drifted closed again, the flush fading from her cheeks. Nadia watched, throat tight. June had never had anyone but her. No father to hold her through the nights, no steady hand when the fevers came. And here was this stranger, this king, easing her pain with a touch. Noah lingered a moment longer, thumb brushing once across June's knuckles before he withdrew his hand. When he rose, his gaze found Nadia's over the sleeping child. The bond thrummed between them, louder now. "You feel it too," he said, voice quiet as the fire's crackle. She looked away, fingers tightening on the edge of the blanket. "It doesn't matter what I feel. She's all that matters." He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell cedar smoke and the faint wildness that clung to him. "Then let me protect you both. Whatever this is, whatever hunts you, ends here." Nadia said nothing. She couldn't. Every instinct still urged her to run, to snatch June and vanish into the night before the bond, or the hunters, could claim them. Yet every fiber of her being ached to lean into the safety he offered. Outside the arched window, the moon hung heavy and silver, bathing the city in cold light. Somewhere in those shadowed streets, hunters regrouped, noses to the wind, scenting blood and the faint, smoldering promise of power. Noah stood alone on the high balcony of the eastern tower, the night wind whipping through his dark hair like impatient fingers. Below, the palace sprawled under the moon, its courtyards quiet except for the occasional patrol of guards. He braced his forearms on the railing, eyes fixed forward, letting the beast inside him rise just enough to speak. "She's here," his wolf rumbled, low and pleased. "Our mate. The little one too." Noah sighed deeply. "She's human. No pack scent. The court will never accept it." The wolf huffed, amused. "They accepted you when you tore out 3 throats to take the throne. They'll accept her because we say so." A pause, then softer. "She calms us. The wound doesn't burn when she's near. The little one. Her heat soothes the edges. We can be steady with them." Noah's fingers tightened on the stone. The old scar across his ribs throbbed in memory, the cursed gash from the border war, inflicted by a dying relic that refused to heal clean. Some days his beast clawed at his insides, threatening to spill over into rage he could barely leash. "We've never been steady," he muttered. "Not since Father died, not since the wound." "We were always alone before," his wolf countered. "Now we have them. Behave." A reluctant smile tugged at Noah's mouth. "You're asking me to behave?" "For them, yes," his wolf settled, content. "We'll be good. Mostly. But when it's just us and Nadia, imagine it. Her skin under our hands, no one to interrupt. The little one asleep. The door locked. We can finally stop pretending we're civilized." Noah's breath hitched, heat flashing low in his gut before he shoved the image away. "Enough," he growled under his breath. His wolf chuckled. "You say that now? Wait till she looks at you the way she did tonight, like she's starving and you're the only thing worth eating." Noah closed his eyes, jaw tight, feeling the invisible thread that tugged him toward the eastern wing, toward Nadia and June. His wolf was right. When he was near them, the constant roar in his head quieted to a murmur. It was dangerous, how much he already craved that quiet, and how much more he craved the woman who brought it. He pushed off the railing, time to face the rest of the night. The eastern wing had been transformed overnight. Heavy drapes now softened the stone walls, rugs and deep forest greens muffled footsteps, and a low fire burned in every grate to chase away the autumn chill. Nadia moved through the rooms like a ghost, checking locks, testing windows, always keeping June in sight. The healer had come and gone, leaving salves for her bruises and a tonic. June refused to drink because it tasted like sad berries. June sat cross-legged on a thick rug near the hearth, sorting a small pile of treasures she'd collected on the walk through the palace corridors. She looked up when Noah knocked softly on the open doorframe. "Mr. King," she said, "come see my rocks." Nadia froze mid-step, a folded blanket in her arms. Her green eyes flicked to Noah, wary, assessing, before she gave a small nod. He entered slowly, lowering himself to the rug beside June. "Show me." She held up a black pebble first. "This one is for strength, like you." Then a feather. "This is for flying in dreams." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I dream I'm high up. Really high. Mama says it's just dreams, though." Noah's gaze lifted to Nadia. She stood rigid, knuckles white on the blanket. He kept his tone light. "Dreams can be true sometimes. Wolves dream of running under the moon." June giggled, a small surprise sound, and the tension in Nadia's shoulders eased a fraction. That first week, Nadia kept June close, distracting her with stories and games whenever the fevers crept in. But the symptoms were growing bolder. One afternoon, while Nadia napped from exhaustion, June accidentally brushed a wool blanket too long. A thin curl of smoke rose from the fibers, the edge singed black in a perfect handprint. Nadia woke to the acrid smell, heart in her throat, and smothered the spark before anyone saw. But Noah noticed. He always noticed. He began appearing at odd hours, bringing books of wolf lore for June, bowls of honeyed fruit she devoured with sticky fingers, quiet reports to Nadia about the hunters he'd tracked. His spies had captured 2 more, in the lower city. Both died before they could speak, poison capsules sewn under their tongues. But the questions he asked them first had yielded fragments. Talk of an awakening, a power skipped a generation, a child marked by flame. Court whispers spread like wildfire. The Alpha King had taken in a human woman and her daughter. No shifter blood, no lineage. Servants gossiped in corridors. Nobles lifted brows in the great hall. Lady Celine delivered the reports. "They call it scandal, my lord. Some call it weakness." Noah let his claws extend just enough to bite the arm of his throne. Let them talk. Moonlight became their confessional, One night, after June finally slept, Nadia found Noah on the balcony adjoining their chambers. He stood with arms braced on the railing, moonlight catching the scar at his throat. She hesitated in the doorway, shawl pulled tight against the chill. "You don't sleep," she said. "Neither do you." She stepped beside him, close enough to feel his warmth, but not touching. The bond hummed between them, a low, constant note. "I dream of running," she admitted after a long silence. "Every night. I'm carrying June. My legs burn, my lungs scream, but no matter how fast I go, I'm never fast enough. I wake up convinced they've taken her." Noah turned his head slowly, studying the sharp line of her profile in the moonlight. Her auburn hair lifted on the breezes. "Nightmares," he said. She gave a small, bitter nod. "They started after her father vanished. I tell myself it's just fear talking, but some nights, it feels like a warning." He let the silence stretch, giving her space. Then quietly, "I dream of losing control, of the beast breaking free completely. Claws out, no leash left. It tears through everything, everyone." Nadia's gaze dropped to his chest, where the dark tunic gaped slightly at the throat. She lifted her hand and let her fingertips hover near the place where she knew the scar curved over his ribs. "Is that why the wound never heals?" she asked, voice softer now. "The one here?" Noah's breath caught at the near contact. "Something in the blade," he answered. "Old magic. Draconic, they think. It feeds the rage, keeps the edges raw. Some days I feel it spreading, like poison in the blood." Her hand finally settled, light, barely there, against the fabric over his ribs, as though testing the truth of his words through touch. The bond flared brighter at the contact, a warm pulse that made his beast rumble low in approval. She didn't linger long. After a heartbeat, she withdrew, curling her fingers into her palm like she'd stolen something she shouldn't have. They stood in silence again, wind tugging at her hair, at the loose ties of his tunic. Then, almost shyly, "June likes your stories. She asks why wolves howl at the moon." "Because we're lonely sometimes, even in a pack." Nadia's throat worked. She never had a pack, just me. Noah reached out, slowly, and brushed a wind-tossed strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered at the soft line of her jaw, thumb grazing the edge of her cheekbone. "She has one now, if you'll let her." Nadia closed her eyes, lashes dark against her pale skin. "I can't. Not when staying could get her killed." But she didn't move away. The next evening, the Great Hall hosted a quiet reception for Northern envoys. Noah had insisted on their attendance. "When I can see you, I can protect you." So Nadia stood beside him in borrowed emerald silk, June at her side in a soft green gown that made her look like a tiny forest sprite. June clung to Nadia's hand at first, eyes huge at the glittering nobles and swirling skirts. But when the musicians struck up a slow waltz, she released Nadia's fingers and darted straight to Noah. She tugged his sleeve with both hands, chin tipped up. "Would you like to dance with Mama?" she asked, voice clear and hopeful, as though she were brokering the most important treaty of the night. Nadia's cheeks burned. "June." Noah's mouth curved, small and genuine. He extended his hand without hesitation. "One dance." The floor cleared slightly as they stepped into the center. His palm settled at the small of her back. Hers rested on his shoulder. They moved together, hesitant at first, then smoother, the bond guiding them like an unseen current. His beast purred audibly, a low vibration she felt through his chest. "You're trembling," he murmured, close enough that his breath brushed her temple. "I'm terrified," she answered honestly. "Of me?" "Of everything." Her voice cracked on the last word. "Of wanting this." His fingers flexed against her spine, anchoring. "Then want it. Let me carry some of the weight." The music sighed to a close. They stopped, but his hand stayed at her back, hers at his shoulder. For 3 heartbeats, the world narrowed to the heat of his palm and the soft catch of her breath. Then June's delighted clap broke the spell from the edge of the floor. Later, in the dim corridor outside their wing, June scampered ahead, clutching a small, glossy stone she'd found beneath a banquet table. She skidded to a stop in front of Noah, holding it up like a treasure. "Here," she said, pressing it into his open palm. "For your sad eyes. When you look far away like you're lost, this will remind you to come back to us." Noah stared at the cool black stone, throat working visibly. He sank to one knee so they were eye level, letting her small fingers curl his around the gift. "Thank you, June," he said, voice rough with something unguarded. June beamed, bright, toothy, utterly pleased with herself, then spun and darted inside, nightgown fluttering. Nadia lingered in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself. "She trusts you too fast." Noah rose slowly, tucking the stone into his pocket. "Children see what's real, not what we're afraid of." Inside their chambers, June was already scrambling onto the big bed, kicking off her slippers. Nadia helped her under the covers. June snuggled close, head on Nadia's shoulder, but her eyes sparkled with mischief. "Mama," she whispered, "you dance like a princess tonight, and Mr. King looked at you like you were a full moon." Nadia's laugh came out shaky. "Go to sleep, Junie." June giggled, snuggling deeper. "He likes you, and I like him, so maybe we can keep him?" Nadia pressed a kiss to her daughter's forehead, heart twisting. "Hush now. Dreams only." But as June's breathing evened out, Nadia lay awake, fingers tracing the empty space beside her, the echo of Noah's hand on her back still warm against her skin. At dawn, alarms ripped through the quiet, sharp guttural howls from the outer wall, followed by the unmistakable clash of steel on steel. Noah was moving before the sound finished echoing, tunic half-laced, boots forgotten, claws already sprouting from his fingertips as he burst into the corridor. Nadia was right behind him, June clutched tight against her chest, the girl's small arms locked around her neck, face buried in Nadia's shoulder. June's breathing came in tiny, terrified hitches. "Stay in the rooms," Noah barked over his shoulder, voice already rough with the shift. Nadia shook her head, green eyes blazing. "I'm not hiding while you fight alone." They moved as one down the shadowed hallway, Nadia's bare feet silent on cold marble, Noah's strides long and lethal. The breach was at the eastern gate, masked figures in dark leathers spilling through like ink, blades catching the first gray light. Shouts, snarls, the wet thud of bodies hitting stone. Noah roared, the sound vibrating through the walls. Fur rippled over muscle in a liquid rush until he was fully wolf. Massive, black-furred, golden eyes burning. He launched into the fray, tearing through the first wave with savage precision. A throat ripped open, a sword arm snapped. Nadia pressed June behind a thick pillar carved with leaping wolves. "Stay low, love. Don't move." But June whimpered, small hands fisting the thin fabric of Nadia's nightdress so hard the seams strained. A hunter broke the line, tall, hooded, dagger raised. He spotted them and lunged, blade flashing toward Nadia's throat. Nadia shoved June down hard, shielding her with her body, arm raised instinctively. "No!" Heat erupted from June's skin in a sudden blinding wave, white-hot, defensive, uncontrolled. The air shimmered. The hunter staggered back as though struck by flame, cloak smoldering, the leather curling black at the edges. He howled, clutching his face where blisters bloomed instantly across his cheek and neck. June screamed, a high, panicked sound, and collapsed against the pillar, palms pressed to her chest, red and angry, weeping blisters already forming. "Mama, I didn't mean, I'm sorry, I'm bad, I hurt him." Nadia dropped to her knees, pulling June into her lap, rocking her fiercely. "No, sweet girl, you're not bad. You protected us." Her voice cracked, tears slipping down her own cheeks as she kissed June's damp forehead. "It's okay. Mama's here." June sobbed harder, curling into a tight ball against her mother's chest. It burned inside. It hurt so much. "I didn't want to hurt anybody. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Noah finished the last attacker with a brutal snap of jaws, blood dripping from his muzzle. He shifted back in a rush of light and heat, fur receding, bones realigning, until he stood human again, chest heaving, old scar livid against his skin. He crossed the corridor and dropped to one knee beside them. June flinched at his approach, eyes wide and glassy with tears and fear. "Don't be mad. Please don't be mad at me." Noah's expression fractured. "I'm not mad, little one." His voice came out low. "You were so brave." He reached out slowly, palms open. June hesitated, then uncurled just enough to let him take her trembling hands. The moment his skin met hers, the angry red faded, blisters cooled to faint pink marks, heat leaching away like mist under sun. June's sobs quieted to shaky breaths, her small fingers curling weakly around his thumbs. Nadia watched, throat tight, one hand stroking June's back in endless circles. "It's her," she whispered, barely audible over the fading chaos. "Not me. Whatever they're hunting, it's always been in her." Noah's gaze lifted to meet hers, golden eyes fierce, questioning, but steady. "Then we protect her, together." But in the heavy silence that followed, trust cracked like thin ice. Nadia saw the calculation flicker behind his gaze, the Alpha King weighing a power that could save his kingdom or shatter it. She saw her own fear reflected back, the knowledge that this gift in her daughter's veins had just painted a brighter target on them all. June sniffled, pressing her hot cheek to Nadia's collarbone. "I don't want to be scary, Mama." Nadia kissed her temple, voice fierce and trembling. "You're not scary, Junie. You're my brave girl, and we're going to keep you safe." Noah stayed on his knee, one hand still cradling June's, the other resting lightly on Nadia's shoulder, a silent vow in the blood-streaked dawn. The palace bells tolled once, slow and mournful, as the last echoes of battle died away. But the real fight, Nadia knew, was only beginning. In the following days, palace corridors patrolled double, every shadow checked twice. Noah moved like a storm, questioning captured hunters in the lower dungeons until one finally broke, gasping a name before the poison capsule dissolved on his tongue. Lord Victor. The council chamber went deathly still when Noah strode in at midday, the traitor's own sealed missives clutched in his fist, letters detailing payments to assassins, maps marked with the Eastern Wing, a single line scrawled in Victor's elegant hand. "The child's awakening will be mine." Victor rose smoothly from his seat, face calm as ever. "My lord, these are forgeries." Noah's claws punched through the parchment. "You sensed the anomaly in her womb years ago. You sent men to hunt her. You leaked our location." Victor's composure cracked, just a flicker, before he lunged for the door. But Noah was faster. A single swipe sent the high advisor sprawling across the table, blood blooming from a shallow cut across his cheek. Guards dragged him away in chains, his calm mask finally shattered into snarling rage. That same night, the palace walls felt too thin. An arrow hissed through the open window of June's chamber, grazing her small arm as she slept. She woke with a startled cry, blood welling bright against her pale skin. Noah burst in, already shifting, scooping her up while Nadia snatched a cloak. They ran, through servants' passages, down hidden stairs, out into the dark forest beyond the walls. Noah carried June the last mile, her small body curled against his chest, face pressed to his throat. "It stings," she whimpered, I'm sorry, I was bad. That's why the arrow came. Nadia's heart fractured. She ran beside them, lungs burning, one hand pressed to June's back. No, Junie, you're not bad. This is not your fault. June's lip trembled. But they keep coming. Maybe if I'm good, they'll stop. Noah's arms tightened. They won't touch you again, I swear it. They reached a hidden hunter's cabin at dawn, breathless, bloodied, but alive. June's symptoms sharpened after that. Fevers turned vicious. She woke screaming, small hands clawing at her back as though something were trying to tear free. Wings, she sobbed. They're ripping out. Make it stop, Mama, please. Nadia held her through every episode, rocking, whispering apologies into sweat-damp curls, guilt carving deeper lines into her face. One evening, after fighting off yet another skirmish in the woods, Nadia found Noah alone in the cabin's tiny solar. Moonlight slanted through the single window, carving his profile in silver and shadow. She shut the door behind her. I have to leave, she said, before this kills her, before you decide she's too dangerous. Noah turned, eyes molten. He crossed the room, crowding her against the rough log wall without quite touching. Heat rolled off him, wolf, man, bond, all of it pressing in. You think I'd hurt her? Or you? I think you'd choose the kingdom. Her voice cracked, raw. I would too, if I were you. He lifted his hands slowly, cupping her face. Thumbs brushed her cheekbones gently, then slid down to frame her jaw. You are my kingdom now. Both of you. The air between them snapped taut. Nadia's breath hitched. She could feel the bond coiling tighter, pulling her forward even as she tried to hold still. His gaze dropped to her mouth. His thumbs traced the edge of her lower lip. A low growl rumbled in his chest. Not anger, but want. She rose on her toes. The kiss crashed like a dam breaking, desperate, hungry, years of running and loneliness pouring out at once. His mouth was hot, demanding. Hers opened under his with a soft, broken sound. One hand slid to the nape of her neck, fingers threading into her hair to angle her head. The other gripped her waist, pulling her flush against him. She fisted his tunic, tugging him closer, nails digging in as though she could anchor herself to this moment and never let go. For a few long seconds, the world was only heat. His tongue stroking hers, the scrape of his stubble, the hard press of his body pinning her to the wall. The bond sang, bright and wild, drowning out everything else. Then reality clawed back. She shoved back against his chest. I can't. Her voice trembled. She's too vulnerable. I'm too broken. She slipped from his grasp and fled to the next room where June slept, leaving Noah braced against the wall, chest heaving, lips swollen, the taste of her still burning on his tongue. The wolf inside him howled in protest, but Noah only closed his eyes and let the sound echo unanswered. Noah found Nadia at dawn the next morning, sitting on the cabin's narrow porch steps with her knees drawn up, watching the mist curl through the pines. June still slept inside, exhausted from the fever. He sat beside her without speaking at first, close enough that their shoulders nearly brushed. The bond thrummed, steady now, like a heartbeat finding its rhythm. I won't let you run, he said finally. Not alone. Not anymore. Nadia's laugh was brittle. You think staying here fixes anything? Every day she hurts more. Every flare is worse, and your poison is spreading. I see it in your eyes when you think no one's looking. He sighed sharply. That's why we stay. Together. I can help her. Control it. She turned to him, green eyes shadowed. How? My wolf anchors her. You saw it. My touch cools the heat. The beast recognizes her power as kin. Ancient. It soothes the rage in me too. If we train her, gently, every day, she learns to hold it instead of fighting it. It's the only way it doesn't consume her. Or me. Nadia stared at the forest floor, fingers twisting in her skirt. And if it doesn't work? Then we find another way. But running won't save her. It never has, Nadia. Silence stretched. Then quietly, Nadia opened up. June's father. He disappeared because of this. I was young, foolish. One night in a border tavern, he was a wanderer, said he felt something in me. We were careful, but June, she was an accident. When he learned what was growing inside me, he tried to protect us, said he'd find answers in the northern ruins, but he never came back. Noah's jaw tightened. I think Victor killed him, to silence him, to keep the trail leading to you. Nadia nodded once, tears slipping free. I ran after that, changed names, villages, everything. But the power kept showing, in her fevers, her dreams. I thought if I hid long enough. Noah reached for her hand. You don't have to hide anymore. Let me help carry it. She searched his face. Why are you doing this? Your court will never accept a human mate, a child with dragon fire in her veins. Because you're mine, he said simply, and she's ours. Scandal be damned. They began the next morning in the small clearing behind the cabin, where sunlight slanted through the pines in warm golden bars. June perched on a low mossy log, her palms resting face up on her thighs. Her skin was still faintly pink from yesterday's flare. Noah knelt in front of her, close enough that his shadow fell across her lap. Close your eyes, little one. Feel what's inside. Don't push it away. Just breathe with it. June's small brow furrowed. She squeezed her eyes shut so tight her lashes trembled. But it hurts when it comes out, like it's mad. I know. He placed his hands over hers, large, scarred, steady. The moment skin met skin, the bond hummed. His wolf rose gently, not to dominate, but to cradle. Let me hold it with you. Heat bloomed under their joined palms, soft at first, then brighter, like sunlight trapped in a cupped hand. June's shoulders hitched. She sucked in a breath. It's warmer, she whispered, but not bad warm. Noah's mouth curved. Good. Now picture it like a little fire in a stone hearth. You decide how big it gets. You decide when it rests. June's lips parted in concentration. The glow steadied, no longer flickering wildly. A tiny flame danced between their hands, blue at the core, gold at the edges, beautiful, contained. Her eyes flew open. Did I do it? You did. Noah's voice was rough with pride. You're stronger than the fire, June. They practiced every morning. Some days the heat spiked before she could catch it. She'd cry out, curling, into herself, palms pressed to her chest as though she could smother the burn. Noah would scoop her up without a word, cradling her against his shoulder while he walked slow circles through the trees, whispering wolf stories. Wolves don't run from fire, he'd murmur into her hair. They learn to walk beside it. You're learning, little one. That's all this is. Nadia watched from the trees, heart aching and mending in equal measure. She saw the way June's fingers loosened their death grip on his shirt as the days passed, the way her small shoulders relaxed against his chest. She saw a father taking shape in the spaces her daughter had never known. One quiet afternoon, after a session where June held the glow steady for a full minute without a single waver, something new happened. June sat back on the log, palms still faintly luminous. She looked at them, and a tiny, delighted laugh bubbled out. It's pretty. Noah grinned. It is, just like you. June's smile faltered. She glanced at Nadia, then back at Noah, chewing her lip. Thank you, Papa Noah. I mean Mr. King, she corrected quickly, cheeks pink. Noah went very still. June's eyes widened in panic. I didn't mean to. Noah knelt again, bringing himself eye level. You can call me whatever feels right, June. June stared at him, searching his face for any disappointment. Then slowly, her mouth curved into the brightest smile. "Papa Noah," she tested. He swallowed hard, throat working. She launched herself at him, wrapping her small arms around his neck. Noah caught her, hugging her close, one big hand cradling the back of her head like she was something precious he might lose. Over her shoulder, his eyes met Nadia's, wet, shining. Nadia pressed her knuckles to her lips, tears slipping free. A few days later, they made a breakthrough. June had been practicing alone in the clearing, small, controlled glows, when the heat suddenly surged, sharper than before. She gasped, stumbling back, palms flaring bright. Noah was there in an instant, hands closing over hers. "Breathe with me." But the power pushed harder this time. June's back arched. A low, pained sound escaped her. Scales, tiny, iridescent, the color of sunset on water, rippled across her forearms, disappearing and reappearing like a heartbeat. Her eyes flashed gold, not wolf gold, but something older, even brighter. She froze, staring at her arms in horror. "Papa Noah, I'm changing, I'm breaking." "No," he said firmly. "You're not breaking. You're just showing more of yourself." He wrapped his arms around her, letting his own wolf rise enough to meet the dragon essence halfway. The scales shimmered once more, then softened, fading back to smooth skin. She studied her arms again, and something shifted in her face. Not shame this time, but a tiny, tentative pride. "I didn't burn anything." "You didn't," Noah agreed. "You held it, all by yourself." June's chin lifted a fraction. She turned to Nadia, who had stepped closer. "Mama, did you see? I didn't burn the trees." Nadia knelt beside them, pulling June into a fierce hug. "I saw, sweet girl. I'm so proud of you." June hugged her back, then reached one hand toward Noah. He took it without hesitation. The three of them stayed like that, kneeling in the moss, sunlight pouring over them, until June's small voice piped up again. "Can we do it again? I want to make the pretty scales again." Noah laughed, a low, warm sound that vibrated through all three of them. "Tomorrow, and every day after." That night, after June finally slept, peaceful for the first time in weeks, Nadia found Noah by the cabin's small fire. She sat close, closer than ever, her shoulder brushing his. "Thank you," she whispered, "for giving her this, for giving us this." He turned, cupping her cheek with one scarred hand. "Thank you for trusting me enough to stay." She leaned into his touch. He kissed her then, slow, deep, full of everything they'd both held back for too long. When they parted, foreheads resting together, she smiled against his mouth. "She's calling you Papa Noah," she murmured, "and she means it." Noah's breath caught. "I mean it too." Nadia's smile faltered for a beat. She pulled back just enough to search his eyes, guilt flickering across her face. "Is it too much to ask of you? She's not your blood. This life, her flares, the danger, it's a weight I never wanted to put on anyone else." He cupped her face with both hands, thumbs tracing the delicate line of her cheekbones. His gaze never wavered, golden, fierce, tender, all at once. "She's not a weight. She's our light. Every time she trusts me with her fire, it's not something you're asking. It's something I'm choosing, because I want her safe. I want her happy, because I want you, all of you." Nadia's eyes shimmered. She swallowed hard, then let out a soft laugh. "You make it sound so simple." "It is," he said, brushing his lips to the corner of her mouth. "Choose me back. That's all I need." She kissed him again, fiercer this time, answering without words. When she pulled away, her forehead rested against his once more. The raven came at twilight, wings slicing the bruised purple sky. It dropped the scrolls at the cabin door with a soft thud. Ancient parchment rolled tight, sealed with a wax rune that shimmered like cooled lava. Nadia's hands shook as she broke the seal. Maps spilled out first, faded ink tracing the northern hills to the old ruins. Then the words, elegant script promising a ritual to permanently balance the child's fire. A cure. Permanent. She read them twice, breath shallow. Last night, June had woken clawing at her back, screaming that wings were tearing through her skin. Blood had flecked the sheets. Nadia had held her until the sobs dissolved into exhausted whimpers. It hurts so much, Mama. I don't want to be like this anymore. Noah watched Nadia's face as she finished the scroll. His jaw was tight. Victor escaped 3 days ago. This is bait. It might be, but look at her, Noah. She's breaking. If there's even one chance. He stepped close, hands framing her face. We'll go, but on our terms. We take guards. We prepare. And if it's a lie, we have to end him. No mercy. They left at first light. 6 trusted wolves, cloaked, silent, moving like smoke through the mist-choked hills. June rode in front of Noah, small body tucked against his chest, clutching the stone she'd given him months ago. Is it going to hurt again? She whispered. He pressed his lips to her hair. Not if I can help it, little one. The ruins rose from the fog like the skeleton of something once magnificent. Shattered arches draped in ivy, altars cracked by time, murals half lost to moss but still showing dragons and wolves entwined, old allies before fear turned them to enemies. They entered the central chamber as dusk bled the sky red. Torchlight flickered across the walls, throwing long shadows over the black obsidian altar at the far end. Victor waited on the raised dais, flanked by a dozen masked men in dark leathers. His smile was thin, satisfied. You came, he said. Hope makes fools of us all. Noah stepped forward, claws already sprouting. This ends tonight. Victor's gaze slid to June, who clung trembling to Nadia's leg, eyes wide. The power in her blood can remake the world, or unmake yours. Bind her. Begin. The ambush exploded. Men surged from shadowed alcoves, blades flashing, chains rattling, nets weighted with iron. Noah roared, shifting mid-stride, black fur rippling over muscle, jaws snapping. He tore into the first rank, blood spraying in dark arcs across stone. Nadia shoved June behind her. Stay behind me, love. Don't move. A hunter lunged, dagger flashing. Nadia met him with a snarl, boot slamming into his knee with a sickening crack, dagger whipping out from her belt in the same motion. She fought like something cornered and feral, slashing throats, ducking under blades, yanking an ancient pulley chain so a massive stone block swung down in a brutal arc. It crushed 2 attackers in a wet crunch of bone and armor, dust exploding outward. But the numbers were relentless. Chains lashed around her wrists from behind. She twisted, kicking, but the links bit deep. She was yanked backward, heels scraping across stone. June. Across the chamber, Noah tore through the press, claws raking, jaws snapping, blood slicking his black fur. A heavy net weighted with iron pins slammed down on him like a cage. He roared, thrashing, muscles straining, but the iron held, pinning him to the floor. Victor stepped forward through the smoke and torchlight, calm as ever. His eyes locked on June, alone now, pressed to the pillar, eyes wide with terror. He smiled thinly. Come here, child, he said, voice smooth. Your mother's tired. She can't protect you anymore, but I can make the hurting stop, I promise. June shook her head frantically, backing up until her shoulders hit stone. No, stay away. Victor crouched slightly, extending one gloved hand. Look at me, little one. See? I'm not angry. I just want to help. Your fire, it's so bright. Let me show you how to make it quiet. Your mama wants that too. She's crying because she can't fix it. But I can. Nadia thrashed against the chains, screaming, "Don't listen to him, Junie. Run!" But June's gaze darted between her mother's desperate face and Victor's outstretched hand. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Victor took one slow step closer. "That's it. Just come to me. I won't hurt you." June's lip trembled. Her small feet shuffled forward, one hesitant step, then another, drawn by the lie of relief. Nadia's scream ripped raw from her throat. "June! No!" Too late. Victor's hand snapped out, seizing June's small arm. The girl yelped, kicking, wildly, but he was stronger. He dragged her toward the altar, forcing her small wrists into the silver cuffs etched with glowing runes. The chains clinked shut with a final, terrible sound. "The awakening begins," he said, voice cold now, all pretense gone. June's eyes found Nadia's across the chamber, wide, terrified, betrayed. "Mama, I'm sorry, I thought—" Nadia lunged again, chains rattling, tears streaming. "June, just hold on." Victor began the chant, low, guttural syllables that made the air thicken and twist. June's body arched against the stone. Heat poured from her in violent waves. Flames licked up the altar's edges, uncontrolled, hungry. The runes pulsed red. Power surged outward, raw, destructive, threatening to swallow the chamber whole. Nadia wrenched one arm free, elbow slamming into a guard's throat. She lunged for a rusted mechanism on the wall, an old counterweight system, and yanked the chain with all her weight. A massive block, swung down, crashing into Victor's men, buying precious seconds. Noah's beast roared, primal, desperate. The net tore. He exploded upward, claws raking through armor, blood spraying in bright arcs. He reached the altar as June's flames peaked, the heat blistering the air, scorching stone. "Papa Noah!" June's voice cut through the chaos, small, terrified. "Help! Please, I can't—" He vaulted the stone, landing beside her. His hands closed over hers, wolf to dragon, anchor to storm. "Breathe with me, little one. Like we practiced. Hold it. Don't let it take you." June's eyes locked on his, tears streaming down soot-streaked cheeks. "I can't. It hurts. It's burning me up." "You can." His voice cracked, raw with love and fear. "You're stronger than the fire. You're my brave girl, and I'm right here. Always." The bond between them ignited, bright, searing, alive, like a thread of molten gold suddenly pulled taut. Noah felt his wolf surge forward, not to dominate, but to meet her. Cool, steady strength poured from his core into hers, wolf resilience threading through dragonfire like roots seeking water in scorched earth. He pushed everything he had, every scrap of control he'd fought for, into that connection. June gasped, body jerking against the altar chains. The wild blaze that had been devouring the stone around her faltered. Flames that had licked upward in hungry tongues shrank, recoiling inward. The heat still roared under her skin, but it no longer raged unchecked. It began to follow the path he laid, cool roots weaving through fire, grounding it, shaping it. Her small hands glowed now with a different light, not scorching white, but warm, steady gold, like sunlight trapped in amber. The radiance spilled outward in slow, deliberate pulses, following the invisible line of the bond straight to Noah's chest. He felt it hit his scar, the old, cursed gash that had poisoned him for years. The burning itch that never quite faded, the rage that always simmered just beneath his skin, both flared in protest, then began to dissolve. Thread by thread, the dark magic unraveled, pulled apart by the golden light. Pain he'd carried so long he'd forgotten what absence felt like eased, then vanished entirely. Clean skin stretched over ribs that no longer ached. His breath came easier, deeper, whole. Victor snarled, raising the ritual dagger high. "The power is mine." Noah spun, claws flashing. Victor's ritual dagger arced downward in a vicious overhead strike, aimed straight for Noah's heart. Noah's hand shot up, fast, sure, fingers closing around Victor's wrist in an iron grip. The impact jarred through both of them. Victor's arm trembled with the effort to drive the point home. For one heartbeat, they were locked, face to face. Victor's calm mask finally gone, replaced by raw, twisting hatred. "You think you can keep her?" Victor hissed, blood flecking his lips. "That power was never yours to protect. It was mine to take." Noah's golden eyes burned. "It was never yours at all." He twisted, hard, merciless. Victor's wrist bent at an unnatural angle. The dagger's point swung inward, trembling inches from his own chest. Victor's eyes widened, shock, then dawning horror. He tried to pull back, but Noah's grip was unbreakable. The Alpha King leaned in, voice low, lethal. "For every night she screamed in pain, for every tear Nadia shed, for every step they ran because of you." Victor's mouth opened on a choked sound, half curse, half plea. Noah drove forward. The dagger sank deep, steel sliding through silk and flesh with a wet final sound. Victor's body jerked. A wet gasp tore from his throat. His free hand clawed at Noah's arm, nails scraping against muscle. Blood bloomed dark across his robes, spreading fast. Noah held him there a moment longer, long enough for Victor to feel the hilt press against his sternum, long enough for the realization to sink in that this was no accident, no slip. This was justice. Victor's knees buckled. Noah released him. The High Advisor crumpled to the altar, back arching once, then slumping forward. Blood poured from the wound in thick pulses, pooling black beneath him, seeping into the carved runes. One by one, the glowing sigils flickered, red to dull gray, then died like stars going out. The chamber went still. Only the crackle of dying torches and June's soft, shaky breaths remained. Noah stepped back, claws retracting with a faint metallic snick. He looked down at the body, at the man who had hunted them, broken them, nearly taken everything, and felt no triumph, only a deep, weary satisfaction. He turned to June. She stared at Victor's corpse with wide, tear-filled eyes, then up at Noah, searching, frightened, but not flinching. "Is he gone?" she whispered. Noah knelt, cupping her face gently with hands still warm from the bond. "He's gone, June. He can't hurt you anymore. Ever." June's lip trembled, fresh tears spilled. "I was so scared." "I know." He pulled her into his arms, chains clinking as he cut them free. She buried her face in his neck, small body shaking. "But you were brave, braver than us all." Nadia staggered to them, chains still dangling from her wrists, blood streaking her cheek. Noah freed her with a quick slice. She fell against him, arms wrapping around both of them, forehead pressed to June's hair. "I thought we lost her," she choked. "I thought we lost everything." Noah buried his face in her hair, breathing them in. "We're both right here." Amid the ruins' fading glow, torchlight mingling with the last soft embers of June's controlled fire, Noah lifted his head. The chamber was quiet now, save for the crackle of dying flames and the ragged breathing of the few surviving guards who stood frozen, weapons lowered. He looked first at Nadia, blood-streaked, trembling, but standing tall beside him. Then at June, still cradled in his arms, her small face streaked with soot and tears, but no longer twisted in pain. "Nadia," he said, turning fully to her. His free hand rose to cup her cheek, thumb brushing away a tear mixed with ash. "Are you ready? For this? For us? For everything that comes after? Because once I speak it, there's no going back. The court may rage, the packs may question, but I will stand against them all. For you, for her, if you'll have me." Nadia's breath hitched. She searched his eyes, golden, fierce, but soft in a way only she ever saw. She rose on her toes, pressed her forehead to his for one heartbeat, and whispered, "I've been ready for a long time. I just didn't know how to stop being afraid." Noah exhaled, a sound that was half relief, half vow. He turned his head slightly, pressing his lips to her temple, then raised his voice so the ruins themselves could bear witness. "I claim you," he said, clear and resonant. "Nadia Thornwood, human-born my mate. June, my daughter by choice and by heart. They are mine, and I am theirs." The surviving guards shifted, some lowering their heads in respect, others exchanging wide-eyed glances. The bond between Noah and Nadia flared brighter, warm, whole, unbreakable, sealing the declaration in light only they could feel. He kissed her then. Nadia rose to meet him, hands framing his face, fingers threading into his hair. She chose him, over fear, over flight, over every shadow that had chased her for years. The kiss tasted of eternal promise. June wriggled between them, small hands pushing gently at their chests until they parted just enough for her to fit. She looked up at Noah with wide, shining eyes, tears still clinging to her lashes, but now mixed with something new, pride. "Papa Noah," she said, testing the words again, then louder, beaming so wide her cheeks dimpled. "My papa is the king. Papa is the bravest wolf I've ever known." Noah's throat closed. He laughed, a low, rough sound choked with emotion, and lifted her higher so she sat on his forearm, her small arms looping around his neck. "And you are the bravest flame, my brave, beautiful girl." June giggled through fresh tears, then leaned sideways to wrap one arm around Nadia too. Family hug. The three of them stood there, a single trembling circle, bloodied, bruised, alive, as the ruins watched in silence. Old carvings of dragons and wolves entwined, seeming to glow a little brighter in the dying light, as though the ancient alliance had finally remembered itself. Months later, the palace had changed. Ancient pacts were carved anew in the great hall, dragons and wolves entwined without fear. The court grumbled at first, then quieted as June walked beside Noah at state dinners, small hand in his, eyes bright and unafraid. Her flares were rare now, gentle when they came. One spring evening, Nadia stood on the eastern balcony, watching the sun sink gold over the hills. The air smelled of blooming jasmine and distant rain. Noah came up behind her, arms sliding around her waist, pulling her gently back against his chest. She leaned into him, head resting on his shoulder, breathing in cedar smoke and wildness, the scent that had become home. June burst through the archway, clutching a sleek, tawny feather from the hawk that had circled the tower earlier. Her eyes were wide with excitement, cheeks flushed from running. "Look," she said, holding it up like a prize. "It's strong and soft, just like you, Papa, and it's from a bird, so when you wear it, maybe you'll dream of flying with me." Noah knelt without hesitation, bowing his head so she could reach. June stood on tiptoe, tongue poking out in concentration as she tucked the feather carefully behind his ear, smoothing it with tiny fingers until it sat just right. He stayed still until she stepped back to admire her work, then lifted his gaze to hers. "Perfect," he said, touching the feather lightly. "Thank you, little one. Now I'll dream of flying with you every night." She beamed, bright, toothy, utterly proud, then threw her arms around Noah's neck in a quick, fierce hug. "I'm going to bed now," she announced, pulling back with a yawn. "Mama says if I chase too many fireflies, I'll turn into one and glow all night." Nadia laughed softly. "That's right. Time for dreams, not glowing." June gave Noah one last squeeze, then scampered inside, nightgown fluttering, calling over her shoulder. "Good night, Papa. Don't forget to wear the feather when you sleep." Her small footsteps echoed down the hall, followed by the soft click of her chamber door. Nadia turned in Noah's arms, rising on her toes to kiss him, soft at first, then lingering, full of promise. When she pulled back, her eyes were dark with something deeper than gratitude. Noah's voice dropped, rough and intimate against her ear. She's asleep. The guards are posted. The palace is quiet. Nadia's breath caught. She felt the shift in him, his wolf rising close to the surface, playful, hungry. His beast rumbled low in his chest. Finally alone with our mate. No little flame to interrupt. We've waited long enough. Noah's hands tightened on her waist, thumbs tracing slow circles over silk. My wolf's impatient, he murmured, lips brushing the shell of her ear. But he's right. I've waited long enough. Nadia shivered, heat blooming low in her belly. No more waiting. He lifted her effortlessly, carrying her through the open doors into their chambers. The heavy drapes fell shut behind them, sealing out the world. The room was lit only by firelight. Noah set her on her feet beside the wide bed. His hands slid up her arms, thumbs tracing the sensitive skin inside her elbows, then higher until he cupped her face. Noah's voice dropped to a rough whisper against her ear. I want you so badly. Nadia's fingers curled tighter into his tunic, knuckles brushing the hard plane of his chest. Her pulse thundered in her ears, heat pooling low and insistent. Take me. He kissed her then, hard, hungry, tasting of cedar smoke and raw need and every battle they'd won to reach this moment. The bond flared between them, bright and electric, as his hands found the laces of her gown. Silk slid down her shoulders in a slow, deliberate caress, pooling at her feet. His tunic followed, tugged free in one impatient motion. Skin met skin, warm, urgent. They fell onto the bed in a tangle of limbs and breathless laughter that quickly turned to gasps. Noah's mouth traced fire down the column of her throat, teeth grazing her collarbone, then lower, every lick a promise. Nadia arched beneath him, fingers threading through his hair, nails raking down his back hard enough to leave marks he'd wear like badges tomorrow. The bond sang louder, hotter, pulling them deeper until there was no space left between want and surrender. When he entered her, eyes locked on hers, giving her time to feel every inch, it was more than bodies joining. The bond snapped taut, golden threads weaving tighter, binding heart to heart. She gasped his name like a prayer. He groaned hers like a vow. They moved together, slow rolls giving way to faster, deeper rhythm, until the world narrowed to heat, heartbeat, and the unbreakable light pulsing between them. Afterward, they lay tangled in damp sheets, sweat cooling on flushed skin, breaths gradually slowing. Nadia shifted closer, legs sliding over his hip, voice dropping to a teasing murmur. Was I worth the wait? Noah's laugh was low, rough. He rolled them so she lay beneath him again, caging her with his arms. His mouth brushed hers, once, twice, before he answered, eyes molten gold. Every second, he said, kissing the corner of her mouth, then the pulse at her throat. Every night I lay awake wanting you. Every day I fought to keep you safe. She arched up to meet his next kiss, soft and lingering this time, full of promise. Good, she whispered, because I plan to make you wait again tomorrow, just so you remember how much. He growled playfully, nipping her lower lip. Challenge accepted. They slept entwined after that, the bond humming soft and steady between them, warm as a hearth fire, finally at peace. Weeks later came the morning June had been waiting for. They took her to the private meadow behind the palace, wildflowers knee-high, ringed by ancient oaks. June stood in the center, barefoot, wearing only a simple linen shift. She looked small and brave, but a little nervous. I'm ready, she said, chin lifted. Noah knelt in front of her. Remember what we practiced. Breathe. Let it come. Don't fight. Nadia stood beside him, hand on June's shoulder. We're right here, sweet girl. June closed her eyes, took a deep breath. The change started slow, scales shimmering along her arms like liquid sunlight, iridescent gold and rose. Then wings, small, delicate, unfolding from her back in a soft rush of air. Her body lengthened just enough to balance them. A dragon no larger than a pony, sleek and graceful, eyes the same storm gray as always, but glowing faintly gold. She opened her wings, tentative, trembling, and laughed, a bright, delighted sound. I'm flying, she cried, flapping once, twice. The air stirred around her. Noah shifted then, massive black wolf, fur gleaming in the sun. He lowered himself, shoulder to the ground. Climb on, little dragon. June scrambled up eagerly, small claws gentle on his fur. She settled between his shoulders, wings half furled, grinning so wide it showed tiny pointed teeth. Hold on, Noah rumbled. He took off at a gentle lope, then faster, bounding across the meadow, leaping streams, circling the oaks. June whooped with joy, wings spreading. For balance, laughter ringing clear. The wind whipped her hair, sunlight caught her scales in rainbows. Nadia watched from the grass, tears streaming, heart so full it hurt. When they finally slowed, Noah dropped to the ground again. June slid off, still in dragon form, and trotted to Nadia. She nuzzled her mother's hand, then shifted back in a shimmer of light, human again, breathless and beaming. Mama, she said, climbing into Nadia's lap. The hole's gone. Nadia wrapped her arms around her. What hole, sweet girl? June pressed her cheek to Nadia's chest. The Papa hole, the one that was empty. I didn't know it was there until Papa Noah filled it. Now it's full, and it's warm, like fire, but the good kind. Nadia's breath caught. She looked up at Noah, still in wolf form, golden eyes soft, and felt her own heart overflow. June reached one small hand toward him. Noah patted closer, lowering his head so she could stroke his muzzle. You're the best Papa Wolf, she whispered. Noah shifted back, kneeling beside them. He pulled them both close, one arm around Nadia, the other cradling June. And you are the best dragon girl. They sat in the meadow, sun warm on their skin, wildflowers nodding around them, as June giggled and pointed out one last cloud. A wolf, she insisted, with wings. Then she yawned, curled between them in the grass, and fell asleep with one small hand fisted in Noah's tunic. The hawk feather was still tucked behind his ear, a quiet promise to meet her in every flying dream. How do you rate this story from 1 to 10? I love hearing your thoughts, and if you'd like to support me, please subscribe. It's free, and it helps more people find these stories.